Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Wednesday, June 17th, 2026. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. In today's episode, we'll hear from Ana Valdez, who is president and CEO of the Latino Donor Collaborative. That's a nonprofit advocacy group that works to make the business case for better Latino representation in media. The organization's motto is, "This is not about DEI, it's about P&L." But before we get to a fascinating conversation with Valdez, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. Leica Animation Studio has become a certified B Corporation. That means the company based in Oregon has to meet rigorous standards for social and environmental performance, accountability, and transparency. Leica Chief Marketing Officer David Burke said the company sought the B Corp status in recognition that the studio has built, quote, a culture of artists, craftspeople, innovators, and storytellers united by a shared belief that the way we work matters as much as the work we create, end quote. Disney is opening up the Simpsons vault to Fortnite creators. This is a milestone for copyright flexibility from the House of Mouse, which was once famously litigious about its characters. But thanks to Disney's investment in Epic Games, the parent of Fortnite, the Simpsons characters are now part of the Fortnite IP Partner Program that allows users to create their own adventures using Bart, Homer, Lisa, Maggie, Marge, and the gang. This news was announced Wednesday morning at the Epic Unreal Fest in Chicago. BET is reviving its Comic View stand-up showcase on June 30th. Each episode will feature 3 comedians. It will be hosted by Chris C.P. Powell, and it will be shot on a rooftop set in Hollywood. All of these stories and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. And now it's time for conversations with industry leaders about news and trends in show business. Ana Valdez is president and CEO of Latino Donor Collaborative. That is a nonprofit organization that does long-term studies on Latino representation in media. The LDC has issued yearly reports about the shockingly low profile of Latinos in mainstream media. The organization teamed with consulting giant McKinsey & Company to do hardcore proprietary research. The latest LDC report that was just published goes deep into the entertainment marketplace. It suggests that stronger Latino representation in movies could mean as much as $20 million to $40 million in incremental box office for mainstream Hollywood film releases. There's so much data out there on Latinos being very high consumers of entertainment and media. Valdez and LDC's backers want Hollywood to understand just how much money they're leaving on the table by ignoring an audience that is too often taken for granted. Ana Valdez, president and CEO of the Latino Donor Collaborative, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Cynthia.
I've known your work for a very long time. Your member-supported organization really does vital work in counting. We all know counting data, metrics, they've never been more important as benchmarks. And the LDC has more than 10 years of history of looking at the marketplace, counting the number of shows, the number of actors, really looking at where Latinos are making an impact in mainstream entertainment. And sadly, for years and years, it's been the same refrain. There is no explanation other than the pernicious impact of systemic racism that Latinos are represented in the halls of power in Hollywood at woefully low numbers relative to population size, relative to consumer impact, relative to buying power. LDC is one of the organizations that is literally in the vanguard with data and information saying why this market is important and why Hollywood is leaving money on the table by mostly ignoring the English-speaking Latino cohort in the United States, which is immense. Ana, what did you find in doing the data collection this time around that stands out to you as significant?
Every year, we do 2 reports. One is the dashboard of what the participation is of Latinos, and then the other one is an analysis of how much money is being left on the table. And so this report this year is very dramatic in terms of we know Hollywood is down. We know that there are challenges in Hollywood today, but Latinos are going down even more than the market. And this is really important because, as you well said at the beginning, we're not in the business of social justice. Latino Donor Collaborative is actually a think tank that focused very much on economics. And for the economics of the industry, Latinos are more important than ever, and people are not realizing this. Let me give you some numbers. To start with, Latinos in this country are 20% of the population and 27% of all the young people in this country. As you know, Hollywood relies on young people. So by not having a strategy for Latinos, by not representing it in parody and in stories and everything, you really are leaving a lot of the audience out. And you have seen how this audience have actually gone to other channels like YouTube, like social media, TikTok, gaming, etc., because the audience is not really seeing themselves. They don't see themselves reflected with stories, with talent that looks like them. So this year, this change in participation, which means it's decreasing more than the market itself. So as I said, we measure the dashboard. We actually do a census of all the shows that are aired in traditional media. And this year we noticed that most of those shows are changing in general. In general, in the industry, we have a lot of reality shows. We're very focused less and less on scripted, and Latinos are less and less on scripted. Last year, we had a participation of about 7% of Latinos being represented, and this year is going down to 6 and 5%. So we're actually calling on the attention of business leaders, calling on the attention of people that are actually reporting, whose job is reporting on ROI, right? The ROI for the lack of investment of Latinos is a huge loss. We actually are in the business of creating opportunities for all Americans, and this is a huge one that is being underserved.
Anna, I know you have very prominent funders. You have people that are in the highest of the C-suites, and you have made the rounds of Hollywood with your decks and your presentations. When you put this to them, this is not about a DEI program, although I still happen to believe that DEI is a worthy goal. This isn't about DEI. This is ROI. What do you hear?
It's very interesting, Cynthia, because I would say that 90% of the CEOs that we talk to understand this concept. They actually want to create a change. They understand that when we tell them, and I'm going to tell you just some numbers that are really surprising for most people, which is a sad thing. Not only Latinos are 27% of all the young people, but the GDP of Latinos, of U.S. Latinos only in the United States, is $4.4 trillion, which would make them the fourth largest economy in the world. So people think, oh, these immigrants just came here and they usually underserved. Well, that is not true. First of all, 70% of people in this country have been here 2, 3, 4 generations long, right? And then the other 30 has an upward mobility that is huge because they come here with nothing. They came here in the wave immigration of last century, and their kids are born here. So their kids are going to college. They have a complete different point of view. They are American. They speak English as first language. And that's the market that is being disregarded. The one that is driving Bad Bunny, the one that is driving Lincoln Lawyer and Wednesday. They're disregarding this. And so when we talk about what the CEOs see, they understand it. They're smart. That's why they're CEOs. Let me tell you where the challenge comes from. And most of the challenge is the next layers, right? There are systems in place. There are traditions in place. There are non-spoken ways of doing things in place. But the thing is that with the diversification of this country, with the diversification of the audience, one needs to evolve. There's no other way out. That's the evolution that is being really hard for Hollywood. And of course, as you well said, there's unconscious bias. The only Latino that I've ever seen is the one that is parking my car, or the one that raised my kids, that's nannies. And the truth is that part is important. But the majority of the Latino community today looks very different.
And it is just absolutely shameful for a business that is still largely rooted in Southern California, that it would just by natural processes, by the proportionate of the population, that you would have more people working at all levels of studios and networks and streamers. In terms of how you measure progress, do you think it's as important to have Latino representation in things that are not consciously positioned as telling a Latino story, but having Latino culture represented as part of friend culture? Not that you have to have one or the other, but is it really important to have the Latino friend in a story that is just about young adults?
That's a really, really good question, because this is where, when you see all diversity equally, there are a lot of opportunities also lost and missed. Because, Cynthia, different cohorts react differently, right? This cohort, the Latino cohort, is very different from other cohorts, even from diverse cohorts. We know diverse cohorts. So I was originally in marketing. In the advertising world, people know that there are certain cohorts within the diversity that want to see those shows that represent specifically those characteristics of their community. In the case of Latinos, and I love this report from Facebook that says that Latinos are the cohort that have more diverse friends from all the cohorts in the country. And this happens to us. We come in, immigrants like me, others have been here, but whether you're an immigrant or not, we come in and we diversify and we intermarry. We have friends from all kinds of races. So what we want to see is us integrated into the American story. I'm going to give you again an example. Lincoln Lawyer. Some people may not even realize he's a Latino, but he is a Latino, and he is in the show the best lawyer of LA. And he said he talks in Spanish to his mom, and he eats burritos. It's soft. It's not on your face. It's a mainstream show. Everybody loves it. One of the most popular shows of Netflix. And that's one of the reasons why Latinos like that kind of show. Wednesday, the same, right? The Last of Us, the same. All the shows that are number one in their own platforms are shows that integrate Latino characters, Latino looking talent, but in a very easy way. We don't want to see an advertising only with Latinos. I mean, we love it. And if it happens, of course, we don't reject it. But what we want to see is the way we are integrating into this country, and at levels that are not only, again, the basic levels that people stereotype us in.
The maid, the parking person,
Exactly.
the landscaper.
Exactly. The immigrant that just crossed the border and was almost killed. I mean, those stories are incredibly important. I'm not diminishing them. The problem is that for the Latino community, that's the only story we're told.
Where are the levers for you? Where can you move the needle?
Especially now with the return of the power of advertisers, we've been working a lot with brands, because that's the leverage, right? They're paying tremendous amounts of money to be in content that allegedly will bring the audience that they're looking for. And the truth is that most of traditional Hollywood is not bringing that. And they know it. And our numbers show it. And it doesn't have to be our numbers, but most numbers show it, and their research show it. So we're working with them to find exactly what Latinos and Latinas want. Young Latinos, older Latinos, all generations, and they are actually putting pressure and investing in content that will show a story that Latinos will actually be attracted to. They're investing a lot in YouTube. They're investing a lot in social media, as you know. They're investing with influencers. Politicians are investing tremendous amounts of money with influencers. Every kind of Latino audience, whether it's a voter or it's a buyer or it's an audience, is affected by this. And so when you say, where do we need leverage? Well, we're creating our leverage with advertising. And there's so many success stories that can be told to brands specifically. This happened in music 20 years ago, and we see the results today, right?
Look at what we see leading the charts.
Latino talent and Latino stories cross over, right? You see Modelo Beer, right? From number 17 8 years ago, today is number 1. And their advertising could be more targeted to the Latino community, but it crossed over and it made a foreign beer the number 1 beer in the United States. Again, we have intense number of examples.
And salsa outsells ketchup. I remember that from a report years ago, but it's those kind of factoids that stand out. Well, Anna, you are really doing the hard job of advocacy, and I really respect the approach that you and LDC have taken for years now. This is a huge investment.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. And thank you so much for reading the numbers. Decisions based on facts are the good decisions.
You can find the link to the LDC's latest report via Variety.com. For anybody that's in the business of decision-making about content, it's really, really important reading. Anna, thank you so much for your time and for your work.
Thank you, Cynthia, very much.
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. Here comes Season 5 of The Bear. The show that defies genre returns to FX on Friday, June 25th. The documentary Peter Asher Everywhere Man is playing in limited release in key major cities. Asher has had a Zelig-like career in music. He was the Peter in Peter and Gordon in the 1960s. Then he went on to be a top producer for Linda Ronstadt and James Taylor and many others. And yes, he was almost Paul McCartney's brother-in-law. If you know, you know. Don't miss my colleague Rebecca Rubin's story on trigger words for filmmakers and stars. Words like sequel and reboot have fallen out of favor. Rubin explains why. We love to hear from our listeners, so please send thoughts, gripes, and other feedback about Daily Variety to podcasts@variety.com. Before we go, congrats to Josh Kaufman. He's been named General Counsel for Michael Nyman's Acceleration Community of Companies. Kaufman comes to ACC after more than 2 decades at Interpublic Group, where he most recently served as Senior Vice President and Associate General Counsel. Thanks for listening. This episode was written by me, Cynthia Littleton. Stick, snicks, hick, picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and don't forget to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Daily Variety.